All right. Hi, David. Good morning.
Hey, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you. Hey,
Good.
everyone. We're doing a special broadcast with David Murray from Atlanta. And this broadcast is to critique a few photos that people sent in. We wanted to thank our members for donating to Jaleel for Jaleel to get his van. So I think we've done a really good job of all pitching in to make this happen for Jaleel. And so, we promised that we would critique a few photos that members want to send in. So I asked David here to join me and give his thoughts on these photos. David.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm glad to be here, and I'm thankful as well as you mentioned that so many have come forth and given generously to Jaleel's fundraiser. I think it's a worthy cause, and I'm glad that we can all be here for him. So that said, uh, I'm looking forward to seeing your pictures. My background in photography, of course, is that I used to be a news photographer way back when, and then I somehow or another became a wedding photographer about it's getting to be almost 20 years ago. And from that time, I've done lots of great things, and including the foundation workshop, which we all lament is no longer with us, but it's in spirit out there. We see a lot of great photographers out there, and when we see them out there doing great works, we can say that we were part of their early development, and now they take the ball and run. So I'm just glad that to see so many great, talented photographers out there, and we've had a hand in it. You especially, we.
Well, thanks, David. We haven't done a broadcast in a while, and with this new technology, with Zoom and all this stuff, it's really easy. And I just want to say that I'm really planning on doing more broadcasts, more videos for the fearless community. And I'm so excited about talking to different photographers and getting your different viewpoints and asking you questions and all that kind of stuff. So in the future, we do plan to do more. This is just a starting point. And are you ready to go, David?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Let's hit it. Let's hit it.
All right. I just want to say one more thing is I can't wait to see Jaleel's newish van, his new ride. So
I know.
yeah. All right, David. Let me see. The first photo we have here is this photo, which is a pose photo,
Mm-hmm.
which is not our expertise, right? That's
I
not
mean,
something we specialize in, but we do it for clients and we do
I,
it at weddings.
yeah, we got to be able to do it. So I feel that I have some areas of this that I like that I can talk about, and those would be, design. I think that having a great design is something that and lighting are both big parts to creating good portraits. And even though portraits are different from, say, capturing moments, I think that even within portraits there are moments, and that is the idea, is to shoot, to be able to I think a lot of the times great portrait photographers are able to have conversations with their clients and somehow or another determine within that time period of what it is that where the the pulse is on who these people are, so, or this person is. So I will say that number one I like about this picture is the use of the grid and the colors. They're, all of us who studied a color wheel will understand that this is basically two opposites. You've got basically purplish, magenta on one side and yellowish on the other, which is makes for a great combination. So that is a really uh, first thing to look at, that you're struck with, that I'm struck with when I see this, is that, and it is pleasing to the eye to see that. So um, I think that the what I like to ultimately see in these kinds of pictures, which contain a bride and a groom, is I really want to be able to see the connection between the two of them. And with this silhouette, I just generally sense that I've got basically two ways to really determine at all of how these people might feel, and that's through what I can sense in their profile is somewhat of a smile. It's obvious that they're happy, and so I'm glad to know that they're happy to be there. Um, and other than that, I would say the closeness of their contact, both in their bodies and in their hands. I mean, a lot of times these kinds of hand where you put your hands suggests how you feel about the person, and it's obvious that they have a very intimate relationship that they can hold on to one another in this fashion. So those are two things that I notice about this. So yeah, I mean, if I could have had them move over just a little bit to the right, I would have preferred that perhaps that the gentleman would have been right square in the middle of that square, in that grid square, and where he's kind of like half in and half out. And I would have preferred that he have that space, and then the bride move over and take the other space. But
Let's go back to talking about the moment that you look for in a portrait.
yes.
So you want to look for the moment of interaction to show love or excitement or some kind of chemistry, something between a couple,
Yeah.
even in a silhouette.
Yeah.
You pose a couple, so you said that we can tell by their faces, the positioning of their heads, and the positioning of the arms, the hands. How successful is this photo in carrying that across?
Well, I mean, I think let's just give it a numerical on a scale of 1 to 10, perhaps. I would say maybe it's about a 6. In that, I sense that they're happy to be with one another, but I don't have that overall anything more. I don't feel like I'm in the middle of an intimate moment by any stretch.
I think it could be done more, and I guess with a 6, you agree that it could be more intense, more loving,
Absolutely.
more connection.
Yeah, yeah. I do feel like that's our responsibility ultimately as photographers, and it's a challenge. We're never going to have not every bride and groom are the same, or bride and bride, or groom and groom are the same. There everyone has. Some people are much more open about how they feel about it. Other people are very much, they don't tend like to kiss in public, and then you have everybody in between. So you're never going to know until you get in there. But I personally like to try and engender some sort of intimacy by simply talking to my clients as I'm shooting. And a lot of times I'll put my camera down and I'll be talking with them. And then as I see that there's something that sparks a visual interest in me, then it's like, okay, I think this is getting to where I think this is where they want to, or this is where they are in each other's hearts and minds right now. And hopefully what I'm seeing right now will be able to best represent with that feeling that they have between one another.
Right. There are many ways to get there. We all have our different ways as photographers,
Sure.
how to work with our couples.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit about the background. And you said that you would prefer to have them over a little bit to the right, so they can be in that box. Maybe one head or both of the heads will be in that rectangular box. And
that would be my preference. Yeah.
By the lines.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. And here's another thought I want to ask you about. That box has a line that's going to go right into her mouth, right into her nose, between her nose and her mouth, right? That
Yes.
line right there. Now, I wondered if you would Photoshop that line out and eliminate that line because it would look better, right? Because it would make the background cleaner for this couple to be in.
I try, it's always my hope to be able to find a backdrop that makes it so I don't have to do any Photoshop work.
I know that's ideal. We
You know
want
what I
that.
mean?
We
No,
want that.
but
Of course, we want to get it right
you're
as
absolutely
much as
right.
we can with the
Yeah,
camera.
I've actually in the past, maybe once or twice on a portfolio type photo, I've actually had to do that with a bride at a window, and I took out this line that was going directly through her head, and it was a very small line, but it just affected me, just bothered me because it's basically right now as it stands, and I would imagine that even if we bring her over more to our right, that she is going to still have that line going through her nose, basically, or between her nose and her lip, and it it takes away from, first of all, from the definition of her profile, and ultimately it just looks uh, like she's got something going through her head. So yeah, I would be of the sort to and have no problem taking that line out.
Right. And if this photos was going to be hanging big on their wall or something, so you want to make it as perfect as possible for them
Absolutely.
to have it in their house.
Yeah.
And, it may disqualify it for a contest or something because we
Yeah.
take that Photoshop action. But for them, we really want to make everything perfect for them as much as we can after the fact. Of course, we want to shoot a
Absolutely.
perfect picture, but I would
Absolutely.
also advocate burning down or photoshopping the blades of grass or something below there on the
Oh yeah, I didn't even
left,
see that. You're right. See,
right? Just clean that up, right? Just
yep.
clean up this whole thing, make it super nice for them to have.
Yeah, you could
Portrait.
almost, as you say, you can almost take the crop from the lower right-hand corner, and as you bring it up to that line, you'd probably get rid of, 90% of the line, the grass to begin with, and I would just spot dab those other whatever remains out after that.
And it's easy to take stuff out, but it's very hard to put stuff in. So what we need in this photo is the rest of the veil on the left.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we had moved this couple, like you said, a little bit to the right, maybe that would solve that problem too. That we get the whole veil in, so that
That's
it wouldn't look cut off on the left side.
right. Though I will say that I get it does that doesn't bother me as much as the lines do. But I hear what you're saying. That yeah, it's like we've gotten to this point where we see like the upper portion of the veil, and then there's that one part that just seems to go right off the line on the left hand side, and it's like well. And as noticeable it is, though, I think that the main infraction for me is that, as you point out, that line that's going through the bride, and even to bring the couple over about a half a step backwards to the groom,
Right.
that little line is still going to go through the bride.
And there's one more Photoshop thing that needs to be done. If you look closely, the groom's eyes, he's wearing glasses or something, so there's a little break right there on his nose.
Hmm.
So that
Hmm.
needs to be photoshopping too. So just want to make it perfect. Anyway, so let's move on to the next photo. Ready, David?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do this.
That's a, um,
Okay, I'm gonna say that this is a pose photo. Like the photographer positioned them there, or they were sitting there, and they kicked their shoes up. That's the shoe. That's the soles, right, of their shoes.
oh yeah, it
Right.
is.
And maybe they were just toasting each other, having fun, kissing, whatever. But it's like a portrait directed session.
Uh-huh.
So how can we? What's your critique on this?
Well, I remember Anna Cooperberg would always say, you know, what's the number one way we show how we love one another? We give each other kisses, right? I mean, it's like, so it's kind of an obvious thing to do. And it looks as though they're toasting, though. I mean, considering that they've got their glasses there. So there's two things going on at the same time. Um, um, Number one, I would try and maybe actually I do like the shoes. I mean, the I have it's not a bad idea to try and um, frame them within the context of the red soles here. Uh, I guess it does make it. You go right to the grooms, but um, I just think that you want to be able to have more of both of them in the photo. I just feel like the guy on the left, the groom on the left, has been cut out just a little bit, and it's. I would have. My first instinct would have been to see if I could get down a little bit further and utilize the wider hole presented by the inner soles of both shoes, and see if I could get them to get more of the two of them in there. But then I would have been, as much as this is a toast of sorts, I would have been wanting to see if I could find something a little bit more intimate, like maybe uh, put your cheek to cheek, or forehead to forehead, and as they're talking to one another. I mean, I just think that those can be as intimate and telling, even in a better way, though perhaps more subtle than what we're seeing here.
Hey, David, there's some little clicking or something. So maybe your mic is brushing up against something. I don't know if
It's possible. You know what? Let me now. Do you hear it? If I pull it out like this,
I don't know. Just hold
it
it.
might be. It was hitting my. It was hitting my shirt, perhaps. So maybe if I hold it out like this.
Yeah, or you can take your shirt off.
Oh, you'd like. I'm sure everybody out there would love that.
There's no visual, so we can't see you, so it's all good.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's true.
Yeah, so keep the mic from brushing up against your shirt, and I think
Okay.
the noise will go away.
All right, good.
All
All
right.
right. Glad we solved that problem. All right. And I didn't have to, I'll have everybody see me. Anyway.
Okay, so I have two things to say. One is this photo is off balance, right? Because there's more of the guy on the right and less of the guy on the left. So it seems spontaneous. It seems like it's something that's done quickly, and that could be energetic, right? In some settings, you want to do a spontaneous photo, and it doesn't have to be symmetrical or perfect. It's something spontaneous can be fun,
Sure.
and it can be off the cuff, right? Mm-hmm. However, I think in this case, we're composing this photo, and I would probably recommend that they both be framed somewhat symmetrically and equally, and not where one man has too much space and the one doesn't.
I agree.
And my other thought is we can crop this photo better too, to give them the balance, to put them right in the middle, so that we can somehow crop these shoes equally to give equal play. So the shoe on the right is not balanced with the shoe on the left, and there's too much black on the bottom. I should have cropped this picture before I should have cropped this picture to show you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the last thing is, it may be a spontaneous kiss that might be fun and all, and sure, we shoot everything. But if I was posing them, I would not recommend a kiss, because that's so easy. And I would try to do something else, something more than the average photographer would do, which is a kiss.
Yeah, so, I think we're saying the same thing on that, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that it's easy to get the kiss, and as you point out, it's expected, and that's good. And when that happens, of course, you shoot it, and you would give that to them. But personally, I like to push myself and see if I can find another expression, another gesture, another way of communicating this love that these two have together. And you know, it may or may not happen within this session, but if it does happen, then that is the picture I would want to, present.
Mhm.
Certainly, yeah, I would present here as opposed to a kissing picture.
Okay, what about the on the soles of the shoes? It's all red, and that's great. That's cool. But what about these white spots? I know that's what
Yeah,
real life
that's
looks like.
that. What I would imagine, that's obviously the sides of the
Yeah.
shoes and all of that. I I don't find that to be objectionable, simply because the basic highlights, the main highlights, are at their faces on the shirts and even on the glasses on the glass. So I would say that let me do something as I always like to do. Is I like to look at it upside down. I mean, it's a little bit um, of a distraction, but that I I thought about that initially, but I put it away because I felt that the highlights from both the shirts and their faces, specifically the gentleman on the right, his face is much brighter than those dots in the shoes. And what it does is it tells me, helps define what it is that we're framing them in. We're obviously framing them now. We know from shoes, and we get that somewhat from the redness of the soles, but then as a secondary point to bring together the notion that we've got
Okay.
this is a shoe, are these little, obviously fancy, whatever they are, on the sides of the shoe.
Yeah, but I'm very tempted to
Bring
clone
it down.
clone out the white highlights and just make the soles red, completely red, so that
What if it was like, what if the one on the left was like the one on the right? The one on the right is very dark. So maybe just darken them down?
for a portrait, I'm tempted to clean up a lot because like retouch a lot because it's a portrait, like
Yeah.
have control. Like if this was a candid scene, then I would do less, but that's just me. So I'm sure this is
Yeah.
a something that every photographer can
That's a good
decide
point.
for themselves. Okay,
No, that's a great point.
next. Okay, so this is a real candid on the dance floor.
Mm-hmm. Sure is. Um, so basically, if I were the photographer, I'd say, oh, "Damn, I should have been on the other side of the guy on the door and the floor there." Simply because there's no context of what they're all pointing to, even though it seems like the photographer has gotten the peak moment.
Hmm.
Uh, it would seem, but in spite of that, I there's no I have no idea of what's going on other than that. And
You said the magic word, David. Seams, seam,
yeah,
right? So
seam.
if the guy split his pants or something and they're pointing to it like a seam, right? So I'm just joking,
Yeah.
but if they're pointing to it and there's something worth pointing at, like was something really weird or funny, I guess I just anyway I know it's funny, but maybe that's on the other side. I guess that's what you said, right? Maybe
Well,
with that.
it could be that they're talking about his splitting his pants or something like that, but I'm not really certain, and there's no way to really know. The best part of this photo is the reaction, specifically of the ladies there on the right hand side. They're just, every one of them's got this great expression, and the guys too there. but it starts with those four in the middle, and then uh, bolstered by the the 3.5 arms that are in the process of emphasizing as well what everyone is seeing. So that that allows me, when I see the women and so forth in the background, it allows me to think that this was kind of like the peak moment of whatever it is that they're trying to do. But again, it's like it's hard to, and it's no fault of the photographer that this is a groom or whoever that is wearing a dark navy blue suit, and or it's nothing on his fabric is recognizable as being ripped, right? So it's hard for us to tell exactly what's going on. And I truly, there are very, very few exceptions to my mind as to when, especially when the subject has their back to you. There's only a very few times when I feel that usually that works well. But the only one that comes to mind is the Pulitzer Prize shot of Babe Ruth at Yankee Stadium, and you don't see his face. It's just like it's number 3, but that's where it does work, But it's the only time I can think of off the top of my head where a full shot of someone with their back to you really works.
So for this photo to work better, we would want to see something that he's doing that is worth all this reaction.
Yes, we have to see what the reaction. We have to understand what the reaction's all about, and there's where the problem is with the context. There's no context of what you're looking at.
Right. It's like all these people are like laughing at this joke, but we don't get to hear the punchline. So we're like, something's funny to you, but I guess this guy doing this is not funny enough to us because we weren't there, and we're not experiencing the whole wedding, and he may be a character that, like, this may be special for him, but for us visually, we just don't get enough of him.
Yeah.
And maybe on the other side we could, and that's too bad, but too bad.
Yeah, I mean, this is the reaction here is so good that I could actually see myself, looking someplace else, being where the photographer is, looking around someplace else, and hearing the laughter and coming back, and I'd start laughing. But it's only not because I know what's going on, except that I think it's so funny how everybody's reacting, and that itself is funny. So
and it's worth shooting a picture.
Yeah,
it's worth. That photographer did a good job of shooting it, but we only wish for something that is even better to make this photo even stronger.
True. And then just very minorly too, I would have tried to find a way to get the bottom line up, the bottom of the frame up so it's just below his feet. And as well, see that they're on the upper, right next to the 4 ladies is the guy right there, and above the guy there are these 2 small highlights there.
Yeah.
And I would want to get those out, so I'd want to crop from the top as well a little bit. So, I could probably take out keep the woman on the left with the red dress on, but try to get the other arm out of there. And see if I could somehow or another, in that regard, just clean it up just a little bit.
I can.
Yeah, let's approximate there. Yeah, it's like, do we even need the girl's head, the woman's heads? All we need are the arms.
We need the arms. We don't.
Yeah, that's all we need.
So I would probably try something like that. And one last point is that if a photographer was just a little bit lower, so that the guy's head will be into the higher, and so we don't have 2 heads coming out his shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
That would probably make this photo a little bit better.
Even a little bit better, but yeah.
All right, next. So you have a reaction to this, right, David?
I do. It's a good reaction because, it's obvious that, the I'm going to suggest that we've got either a maid of honor or at least a bridesmaid, perhaps, and the she's persevering in spite of the fact that she's covering her head. So that makes it even funnier to the bride, and of course the bride is totally loving it. So I can almost hear the bridesmaid's muffled words
Mm,
behind the
mhm.
her speech paper or whatever it is that she has in her hand, and but still persevering to the point where she can raise the mini champagne glass in her bottle in her arm. That's pretty funny. Um, do you want to talk first? Or you want me to?
I'll talk first. I would say this is pretty well done. Something's funny, and the photographer shot it very cleanly, very tightly, like without showing a lot of extra details we don't need to, or cropping it very tightly. Maybe a little bit too tight on the left. If I'm really picky, I don't want the frame, the edge to slice into her hand.
You're
So
right.
give
Right.
it give it a little bit more space. So we have the whole hand. That would be good. That's very picky. So well done, good shooting. But I would probably advocate one small adjustment that a photographer
Right.
maybe could have made
Right.
is we don't want that frame behind the bride's head. So
Yep.
we want to swing over just a little bit so that the bride can be in the clear spot, and that way we can see her expression even better.
And that's something I think that any photographer who is been at this for a while and is really conscious can see that and just take that momentary second, even as he or she is got their eye to the camera and they're moving even as they're shooting because they don't want to miss the moment, but they want to see if they can incrementally just make it a better backdrop. So that frame half in half out is definitely an issue that could have been solved by a quick move to the right, and it would have only taken about 6 inches or so to the right to get that out of the way.
And that's an instinct that photographers can develop with more experience, with maybe more critiques. Right, we point this out and like, okay, next time maybe maybe like 2% of my brain will be recognizing this and make me move. The rest is enjoying the moment. So
Sure.
yeah, it's a small thing, but the more we do it, the more instinctive it is, and the more we can make these adjustments. That
Right. And the only other thing beyond the frame, of course, is the lamp or whatever it is in the background there. It's just, it's just kind of like there, and it doesn't add anything to the frame. So I would have, again, this is one of those things you can work something alongside trying to get rid of the frame behind the bride. The other thing, the lamp is more problematic. I mean, you're in the middle of a moment. You don't have time to go over and knock that thing down or whatever. So you're just stuck with it, and there's not much you can do.
yeah, not to look back. Now, I wonder if this would be a good black and white photo,
Mm.
because we wouldn't have to worry about the pink dress and the maybe. Oh well.
That's a good question. A lot of times that is one of the criteria I have for putting something black and white is it a great moment? And do I want that moment to stand out without having to compete with thinking about the color of the bridesmaid's dress or anything else? I just want to be able to have the focus be on the gesture of the bridesmaid and the laughter of the bride.
Okay, we got a couple more, so let's see. All right, you want black and white? I want black and white. Here, I got black and white.
You
Nice.
got that. You got it here.
Super
That's
clean.
very nice.
And I'll go first, and I'll say I really appreciate that it's not just a hug, but it's got a secondary element. It's got the offering of the handkerchief with a
Yeah.
good face, so it's got another good face to it, and it's very clean.
Yeah. Gosh, this is a really nice picture. Um, uh, I think if the only thing that I might comment on is that where I want it to be absolutely understood, and be the first thing that we look at is his face, and it's a little dark there. So I would think that it would behoove the photographer to lighten up from the eyebrows down to his nose and just try to lighten that part up, and a more even of the gentleman uh, presenting the handkerchief. I mean, it seems like the bottom of his face is a little lighter than the top where his forehead is. So there's an unevenness there to the look of the man on the right.
Or his face? You think his face doesn't
Yeah,
could look better through dodging or
yeah, just
toning?
taking,
Yeah.
yeah, lightening up the, like, say, his forehead and his and right to, like, see, like, even the top part of his nose is darker than the bottom part, and I'm sure it's there. The part of the reason is, of course, is that it's hitting the light differently at the bottom, but nevertheless, I just see, like, the top part of his, there's like two tones to the forehead. On the left, it's like a half a stop darker than on the right.
Okay, I would agree with you that this is a good moment, but the toning could be better
Yeah,
in printing this photo and processing it to present this photo. It could be better.
absolutely. Yeah, and while we're at it, see how the tone is different on the left-hand side of the bride's dress and on the right-hand side. So I would suggest that uh, just to make it less of a highlight, I would tone down the right portion of the bride's dress as well to match the left part.
This reminds me of, David, it reminds me that when I was like working at the university newspaper,
Mm.
and I would be the editor or something for the night, and the photographers come in and print their photos,
Yeah.
for the newspaper, and they were like, "Is this good?" It's like, "No, print it again. Do this. Go back to the dark room, print it again, print it again."
And that's the way we learn. And I funny you should say that, because I was thinking of a friend of mine, and he worked with me at the Fort Lauderdale paper, and he eventually went on to the Miami Herald, where he still works. And I still remember him. He was making a print for a contest, and he spent an hour in that enlarger, just making that print over and over again. He wanted it absolutely perfect, and it told me about how important it is when you're putting it out there for the purposes of a contest, or as we were pointing out before, with a portrait, that's going to be on somebody's wall, that you want it to be as perfect as possible. And that's just the way. These are the little things that can be suggested that might actually make it a little better.
Yeah. All right, next one.
It's funny how two guys' eyes are bulging out like that. It's funny. That doesn't happen very often.
And this is a really good moment, right? You have a lot of good faces.
Yeah.
All the faces help each other.
Yep. Um, I would say I would want to crop it. I just want to get that black corner out of there. I just want it to be all white in the background.
You do, right?
Yeah. See, I could
I do too,
actually.
David. David, look, I do too. So I did it.
Yeah.
I cropped this one.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, look at this one.
Yeah. Oh, there you.
Yeah, look at that.
Oh, boom.
Before,
Look at the
after.
difference, right?
Right?
Look at the difference.
Look at the difference, you guys.
Yeah, that's a really big difference. It just everything in this light, and in this setting, it's consistent, and so we're not our eye isn't trying to sneak a look up to the upper left hand corner all the time.
Yep.
Now we can focus on the main things, which are the people. Specifically, the guy on the right is got this great expression, and but the groom himself as well. I would imagine it's the groom, or maybe it's not. I don't know. The guy standing is probably the better way to say this. Even his eye is, he's like, he's whatever it is, he's got it down right in the middle of what he's saying, and everyone's loving it. So that's great. The only other thing again is that it seems like it's so contrasty that it just, the toning could be a little bit better on the faces. That's the only other thing I could say here. Like, for example, the lady way to the left, see how much darker she is, and she could just be lightened up a little bit. But overall, it's a great photo, and I'm sure that the client just has this in their album because it's a really great photo.
It's a really good moment, a good time to push that button,
Yeah.
to capture this exact moment of everyone's faces, and
Right.
yeah, perfect.
Right. That's pretty much all we can be asked to do and execute as best we can is a telling moment like this, and it's a great story. Obviously, that story that is being told will probably be told years from now, and to have a momentous image to mark that occasion is just a really wonderful thing.
Okay. This is the last one.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to laugh at this boy's problems, but it's, been there, done that, right? Oh, God, love them.
What's funny is when your kids are like mad at you when you're laughing because it's funny, and they're like, why are you laughing at me? Like they're like
right.
indignant or something. It's like,
Well, I mean, first of all, there is that thing about how lower center of gravity when they're that age. So when they fall, it isn't as treacherous or as harmful to the body as when you or I would fall like that, right? So we can, some of the laughter that we have is knowing that in spite of and of course all the clothing he has to pad him, and I'm sure it does hurt, but hopefully it wasn't too bad. But it's just it's that look. I feel guilty now. I feel he's looking at me.
I mean, it's in the photographer's portfolio, so I think everybody's cool with it. But like, it's a funny moment. It just happens to be, a little bit not embarrassing, but it's like not a happy moment for him. But overall, it's kind of. I mean, I guess the photographer appreciates the humor in this, and I guess the fans
Yeah,
do, and everyone.
I mean, I think that the way it is that I'm laughing at it, and perhaps others can laugh at it, is that you almost can read the thought bubble above the kid's head, right? I mean, and it's almost like this. You looking at me?
Yeah.
And the glasses are just perfectly positioned between the nose and the lip. So it's just, it's just perfectly done that way. Oh, what can we do anything better for this?
Well, the photographer wants to know if it looks better in black and white. So if I convert it to black and white, and I know I didn't tone it properly, I just
It would have to be darker than
right. So the face should be darker. But do you think black and white will get any, will give it a stronger presence, or will get the point across quicker?
Frankly, I almost think that it makes it more serious. Isn't that funny?
Black and white make it more serious?
Yeah, I don't know why. I feel like I don't have the same feeling. I don't know why it is when I see it in color. I get a little bit. It's more humorous. That's weird. I have to think about this, but I think that I'm just very much. I'm just gonna try to maximize this a little bit better so I can Yeah. Okay. All right.
I don't see it as making a big difference. I think it's six of one and half dozen of the other. It's going to have the same power, very close to the same power regardless. I don't see it as being black and white will totally make it more awesome or worse.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I like it color. It's just a real moment, and it's a little bit funny. So I would be more apt to want to go with that, with what we saw originally.
Right. Now, yeah, because the color one, I still see his face. His face is not lost because the photo's in color. There's no red flowers in the background or any
You're right.
any
Yeah,
shrub.
it's pretty neutral. It's pretty neutral.
Yeah, it was very clean anyway to begin with. It works in color. It's fine.
Yeah, and the green boutonniere, is doesn't take away again, because the highlight, which is of course where your eye will always go, goes right to his face, and then to his hands.
Yeah.
Those are the, and then to the person's hands, the adult's hand.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of like it this way.
Yeah. So, this he's a ring bearer, and he tried to do his job.
Yeah, I know it, man.
I'm pulling for him, but happen.
Talk about falling in the line of duty, man. He did what he could. I hope he didn't lose the ring.
Well, looks like still good in there. So, yeah. So the conclusion is color is good, and it gets his face across really well. And, we find it kind of humorous, but we're not laughing at him. We're just appreciating the moment. And
and it's little things like, it's the perfect expression, and the glasses are just perfectly positioned on his face. If I'm trying to think, if one eye were covered and the other were left exposed for us to see like that, it probably would not be as funny. I think the symmetry and the positioning of the glasses, I think, just makes it that much more pleasing as well.
Yeah, I thought about cropping to see his face more, but I think we need the context of the ring pillow.
I agree. That's why I think we can't do any more. I mean, you might be able to take a nano, just a centimeter below his finger, the boy's finger, or his arm, his right arm, but that'd be about it. You're almost at max. Maybe from the left, I guess it wouldn't really matter, left or right.
It wouldn't matter.
Yeah. Lower left or lower right, it wouldn't matter.
Right. So I believe that we are at the end. So thank you, David.
Oh, my pleasure. Love doing that.
Yeah, hoping to do more. I think we gave a lot to each photo because we had a few, and it's a good process, and I'm looking forward to doing more with you.
Yeah.
And with other photographers.
Yeah, that'd be great. And again, thanks to everyone who's participated in raising money for Jaleel, and everyone's appreciative. So, and I'm sure Jaleel will be so appreciative of. But we better see we ever see a picture of that car when it gets out there. I want to see that picture.
Can't wait. Okay.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you, Wei.